Okay, page 7. So I did, I had mentioned on page 2, and basically page 2 through page 7, I thought I was recording and I wasn't. So I went ahead and built page 7, which is the same as page 2, only it's a mirror image. So on page 2, these flaps are installed on the right side, and on page 7, they'll be on the left side. So I'm going to go ahead and show you what that looks like on this pink cardstock that I've just done. So this is what page 2 looked like. It was installed over here on the right hand side. So for page 7, we're going to want that installation to be on this side. This is the spine side on page 7. And then we're going to want the waterfall feature to go here. So I'm going to go over those measurements again. So you're going to have one panel or one flap that is 6 by 8. You're going to score 1/2 inch on the 6-inch side. This is 5.5 by 8. You're going to score 1/2 inch on the 8-inch side. You're going to install the larger of the two flaps on the very outside edge of the page. And then once you do that, you're going to rest the smaller flap like so, and then lay it down, and when you press it down, that's how you'll locate where this needs to lie. So I've done that on page 2, and I'll show a clip, or you can refer back to page 2, but that's how that's installed. Then you've got these 4 waterfall features, which are 4 by 4.5. They're gonna cascade over here on the, I did that wrong. The spine is, I'm sorry, not here, it's on this side. About that, I was getting myself all confused. So this actually is going to be, so this is page 7, and so on the flip side will be page 8. So page 7, this is the spine on this side, and this is the side the waterfall goes in. So I just want to make sure I had that right. So page 2 is going to be in that orientation, and page 7 is in this orientation. So you want basically the waterfalls to be on the outside. Why do I do it that way? Well, the reason I do it this way is because there's a lot of edges here to potentially get hung up in the spine area. So I want to put them on the outside of the page, not toward the spine. This is the spine, and even though I have a flap this way, I'm giving myself 1/2 inch, so there should never be any interference between the spine of the book, the hinge here, and this flap. So that's the logic behind that orientation. So I apologize that I did not build this on the black cardstock on film, but you get the gist of it. So that's my build for page 2 and page 7. Read each one of the elements and we'll build it together. And one of the reasons I'm using this pink cardstock is because I'm never going to use it for anything else. This predates all my mini album building, and I keep a bag full of these pages that I've designed over time, where I write down the sizes and I kind of do some test building, and I keep them all together, and they're all on pink cardstock. So when I'm feeling a little, I don't know, creatively challenged, I'll refer back to that bag and look at some of the pages that I've designed in the past and take some of those elements, or maybe even redo some of those pages just because I'm kind of stuck. So I'm going to go ahead and build these up. They won't go to waste, but they're not going to get used in our album. Okay, as you know, we're building an 8 by 10 or 10.5 by 8.5 mini album, and that means our base pocket page is going to be 10 by 8. So I went ahead and just created a sheet of 10 by 8. It's not a pocket because, like I said, I'm going to just use this as a reference page. It's not actually going to go in an album. And we are going to build it. So you're going to need a 5.5 by 8, and that's 5.5 wide by 8 inches tall. And then you're also going to need a 6 by 8, so 6 inches across and 8 inches tall. And we are going to use these 2 features right here. They're going to get attached. And I have to think about this. Yes, this way. So we're going to attach these large flaps to the spine side of page 2. And there's my S to indicate that that's the spine. If it were being installed, it would be installed here. And then I'd have a pocket insert over here. All right, with that, I'm going to go ahead and sit down. So what I like to do is, I have to think this through. It's actually going to get installed like this. So the I wrote these upside down. The 6x8 is going to get installed on the very outside of the page. And then I'm going to add the 5x8 on the other side of it. And then once I show you that, then we will get back to actually decorating the page, the real page, with the designer papers. Okay, I'm just adhering it to the very edge. There we go. So that's like that. So now the way I want this to fit together is I want it to close, and then they're going to have a 1/2 inch exposed here. But I want to make sure that when I lay down this flap that it's far enough over that this will close first. And so the way I do that is I'm going to take my backing off. I'm going to open this flap. I'm going to lay this over just like so. I'm just going to make sure it's up and down right, so it's level on both ends. And then I'm going to close it and let it find its location. Just like so. So that way you know when you close it, it's going to close flat for you. Okay? So that's how I locate the location for the 5.5x8 flap. Okay, now on this side, we are going to have a waterfall feature. And I'm going to go ahead and install these. However, if you're building the album, you're going to want to stop right here and set this waterfall aside. Like I've done here, my waterfall is loose and these flaps are installed. I'm setting this aside because I want to put a piece of designer paper down before I add my waterfall, okay? So you're going to stop right here and install your waterfall after we put our designer paper in. Okay, I'm going to stop now. Hey everyone, it's Daphne from Scrap and Create, and today we're going to continue working on the Birdsong album, and what we're focused on today, or right now anyway, is page 7. So I've got the bulk of the cover laid out, and then we're going to add in these waterfall features. And if you're building along with me and you've already done page 2, you know it's very similar. The only thing that's really changing is the designer papers. The flaps and the waterfall are the same. So with that, I'm going to sit down. I think I've done my dry fitting, so we'll see how that goes. Hopefully I won't have to do too much. So this is, I'll show you the page I took this from. This is the page that I trimmed this out of. So I took this page, one of the 4 that you get if you get 2 packs, right? You get 2 sheets, but I went ahead and did 2 DCEs, so you get 4 of each sheet. So I took one and I cut it apart just to use as fussy cut, or to use as like accent pieces. So here's the 2 pieces down here. I've got these cut out. I haven't used them yet. This is actually going on page 6, and this is going to go on page 7. So you might want to take some of your cut apart pages. I usually do this in the beginning, my cut apart pages, and there's another page that's just the borders, the stripe borders, and I cut one of those apart right away so I don't accidentally cut into any of the images looking at the reverse side. So I set aside, I cut apart one of these, and then I can't find, I think I've used all the other paper, the one that has all the border pieces on it. And I've already trimmed it apart, so it's hard for me to show you, but that's actually just a scrap. But the one that had all these beautiful border pieces on it, I always cut one of them apart so I don't accidentally repurpose it for whatever's on the flip side, which is this image. So I went ahead and did that early on so that I would have these pieces later and that I wouldn't accidentally use it all up on the flip side. It's especially important when you're doing a DCE because you don't get that ephemera pack. So you really have to be creative about your cut aparts if you want to embellish your album. Okay, now I'm just dry fitting. I can't really tell what this is. I guess this is the right way up. I had to flip it over to see. But it actually fits better this way. Why? I don't know, because it seemed like it was square in the trimmer. But it goes this way. I'm going to put it in this way. But you can see there's dragon heads going every direction, so it doesn't really matter. They're going up and down and sideways, so... Which I like when they do that because then I'm not bound to portrait or landscape on the pattern. Like in some of the patterns, they're so strong you can't, you have to have it portrait or landscape or you lose too much. And I haven't put a magnet on this. I didn't do it in the build process, so let's go ahead and do that now. And I'm just going to use 2 small magnets. So it's not a requirement, but I always like to put tape on the other side. And it doesn't have to be double-sided tape. It could be masking tape, anything to soften the edge of the magnet. I have to think about this. You know what? I'm not ready to put my magnet in yet. I'm not sure if I'm color blocking, so I'm going to wait. I'm going to go ahead and cover this side because it doesn't matter. I don't have to put the magnet in yet. Anyways, what I was saying about the tape is it softens the edge of the magnet so that it doesn't stand out so much against your designer paper. So I always like to put a piece of tape over it. I use double-sided, but you could use anything, as long as the edges aren't so sharp against the designer paper. So what I found when I trimmed this piece out, I really like the look, but it's actually a little bit shy of the length of the flap that I'm putting it on. So there's 2 things that you can do. You can either trim your flap down to fit the image, which I can't do because it's already installed and yours might be too. Well, you can, but you'd have to do it with a straight edge, which is difficult, to say the least. And the other thing is to add a strip here to cover. You know what? I just did that wrong. Shoot. I'm going to add a strip on this side. So I'm going to install it so that it's on the edge of the flap, and then I'm going to add a coordinating strip on this side. I did that backwards. Sorry. So like I said, again, the other thing you could do is you could just trim this flap down so that it is ½ inch shorter than it is. And that's just because that's the size, and I'll go back to this. I'll read. That was the size of this. And if I went outside ½ inch, I didn't really like the look. I actually tried it and I didn't like the look. So it's up to you. Or you can use a completely different image. I also need to verify, that I was putting it in right side up. And I was. All right, so I'm going to re-glue this. You know what? Before I do that, I'm kind of out of order this morning, sorry. I think I should probably try to trim out my strip first. So what size do I need? It looks like 3/8 of an inch is what I'm after. And I thought I trimmed out a piece. Where did I put it? It's the fan piece. It's really pretty. This is the piece that I'm planning on putting here, and I trimmed it out and I have to find it now. I set it aside. Well, for heaven's sakes, what did I do with it? Here it is. Duh. So I'm gonna actually put this in first, and that way, if I need to trim anything, it's gonna come off the edge of this. It'll be easier. Okay, so here's my fans. And it's going right on just to the left of the score line of this flap. take off some of this excess glue. It will dry clear, but there'll be a little bit of texture. So hopefully you didn't make the same mistake as I did. But in the end, like I said, it will dry glue. I mean, dry clear. Of course it'll dry, it's glue. Okay, now we're gonna add this piece. Okay, so now I'm gonna put my contrast sheet in here so we can see the edge. And it looks like it's trimmed out just right, so I'm happy about that. Yeah, beautiful. So that's pretty much the cover of page 7, and now we're gonna add our waterfall when I get this laid in. Waterfall in a pocket. Excuse me. Just a little bit of dried glue that I'm pulling up. Oh, hey, great news. We're carrying this in the shop now. We just got in an order of these pick tools. So there'll be a link in the description below for all the materials in this project, including the pick tool. So I know I had told you in previous videos that they're pretty easy to find, but if you're in a place where you can't get to a craft store or they're hours away, you can now buy them from us. And like I said, it'll be in we've got a tools section, staples and tools, but I'll also provide a direct link in the description below if you're interested in getting this pick/weed tool. All right, so now we're ready to lay in our waterfall, and we're just gonna go to the outside corner and lay these in. You can come in, Noah. Oops, I grabbed before I was ready. There we go. And if you recall, on page 2, at the bottom, we're going to install a pocket, and then we're going to add a tag, and that tag is what's going to hold everything in place. Okay, here's our pocket. And in the first video, I can't remember if I told you the right size, but I was going to make this a little bit shorter, and I went back and decided that I wanted that extra flange so that the tag could go all the way to the bottom, because the tags are quite large. When I say tags, it is a graphic 45 regular tag, and so I resized it so that we have this flange so that the tag can go in a 1/2 inch deeper, and I think that's going to make a difference. On page 2, I'm going to bring this up so you can see it. So right here, and I'll put the tag in. You can see the tape does not go all the way to the edge of the flange. I like it on the outside edge because you don't want anything lifting on the outside, but it left a little strip down here that my tag was getting stuck in on page 2. So in addition to the tape, I'm going to add a bead of glue so that when it's down, my my tag won't potentially get stuck on it like that. So it'll lay down flat. So you may want to consider the same thing. And I'm only going to do it across the bottom. It's not going to need it on the tops. Or sides. Sorry, not top, sides. I'm going to do it on the bottom. And that's kind of a live and learn. So I learned something from page 2. Okay. There we go. And again, I'm just going to add just a tiny bit to help the tag go all the way to the pocket. Not too much, because you don't want it to squeeze out over this. You don't want the glue to squeeze out over and then glue the whole thing shut. So then you wind up in the same place as if you just done a glue line instead of a flange. All right, so it's ready. And it's just gonna go to this outside corner. And I will adjust my light in just a second. Some light is coming in through the screen and it's making a really bright spot here, so I'll fix that. I'll fix it. Okay. There we go. All right. So that's that. And I have a tag that's going to go in here, and it's black, but I'm just going to show you for demonstration purposes. This is the tag. Oh, that made it much easier, by the way, that little strip of glue. This will go in like so, and it'll hold the waterfall in place. So what is left to do is we need to decorate our waterfall, and then we need to do basically the B-sides of all the flaps. So it's I've picked out this, and that's because it coordinates across the way with page 6. And I think I can do all of them. I have enough of this pattern to do all, but I'm going to do every other one right now and look at that and see if I want to continue with the same pattern for all 4, or if I want to vary the pattern and put something else in between. But I do know that this is going to be my top design. And I'll pull in page 6. Let me do some housekeeping here, so you can see how it's going to coordinate. Whoops. My magnets are getting me tangled up. Okay, so it's going to look like this. So this is where the design is going to get pulled in from across here. So that's why I'm doing it that way. Okay, so these need to be 3 and 7/8 by 3 7/8. So I'll trim these down real quick. Well, hello, Nala came to see me. Hello, girlfriend. Oh, it's so nice to see you. What are you doing? Have you had your breakfast yet? How do you smell? You're so silly. You're so silly. She goes for a ride with me in the morning now when I take my son to school, and she gets very excited when she hears the keys jingle. Because she says, that means road trip. Road trip? Okay. So I was mentioning in my earlier videos, I'm getting excited because next week now, I guess it's a week from now, I'm going to Creativation, yay! And we get to look at all the new products and papers and get some new stuff for you guys in our shop. So just last night, I put a shout out or an email campaign out telling you guys that you can pre-order the Graphic 45 latest collections. And there is Farmhouse, Fruit and Fauna, or Fruit and Flora, I can't remember. Both of those are very colorful collections. And then there's Ocean Blue, which is a very subtle collection, but it looks really pretty. And I've already seen some content on it. One of the design ambassadors has put out a mini album, and it's really pretty, on the Blue Ocean. So far, that's the only one that I've seen any content on. And then, so those are all available for pre-order right now. And then the next DCE is going to be Safari, which was a very popular collection for its initial release, and I really like it. So I expect that it's going to be pretty popular. So if you hop on over to www.scrapandcreate.com, you can pre-order those collections and make sure you are signed up and ready to get those collections when they first come in. And we've already had some pre-orders come in, so it's pretty exciting. And I can't tell you off the top of my head, but on the pre-order page, there is an estimated ship date, just so you know. And for the new collections, we will have bundles. And of course the DCE is not a bundle, but we will put some coordinating charms with it, but it won't have the ephemera or the die cuts or anything like that. All right, so like I said, I wanted to do every other one and then get a look at it, because I don't want to do like pattern overload. So let's try that. And then the other one I was thinking about using is this very subtle gold and black pattern, which I like. It's pretty. So I'm going to dig around for a minute and see if I can't find another piece to use. That's wide enough. Oh, and here's where I fussy cut those, another one of those images. It needs to go into my embellishment bin. Okay. Okay, this might be big enough. I'm going to test it. See if it's wide enough. It might not be. Nope, it's not wide enough. So I have to keep looking. Let's see if I can find a larger piece. Yeah, I think, yep, I've got it covered. That's cool. So I might actually try to cut that out. So I need 2. Oh, that's not wide enough either. I was wrong. It's 3.5, not 4. So I need something that's 4 inches wide. Another 3.5. So I got lots of 3.5s, but no 4, or at least not yet. Okay, I might have to cut into a 12 by 12. Let's see what's on the other side. The bands. Sorry guys, I thought I'd be able to locate that very quickly. Oh, and there's that stripe one. I said make sure you cut one of those apart, and I will use that as trim pieces. I don't have any more of that pattern, so I'm going to change my plan. And there's another black and gold print in here that I'm going to use, because I think it'll look just as pretty. And it's got birds on it, of course. Birdsong, right? Here we go. It's this one. So I'm going to cut this one down. So we need 2 3 7/8 by 3 7/8, and then we'll be done with that. Okay. Hey, what are you doing, girlfriend? So there's these birds on here, so I'm just trying to make sure I'm going in the right direction. The heads look like they're going up, so that looks right. Whoops. It shifted. Hello. Hi. I'm glad you came to see me. What are you working on? She had to come and smell all my papers. Make sure nothing's changed from the last time she came in. There. Alrighty. Okay, sorry about that delay. I thought that was going to happen much faster. So from a design perspective and a process perspective, a lot of times, you know, people ask me, well, how do you, that's the hardest part, right? Is figuring, well, two things. For me, the hardest part is making sure I have enough paper to go across all my flaps, right? You know, planning, paper planning, not pattern planning, just paper planning. And then the second is the pattern planning, and they really go hand in hand. So what I like to do is when I'm designing my flaps, and I've done enough of them that I'm pretty sure that I've got enough paper, but I occasionally fall short. But I don't want that to happen on any of my A sides. So I go and I design my album, and then I go cut all my papers to go on the A sides. And B sides get what's left over. I'm okay with color blocking. A lot of times, I really like color blocking. And I've been known to do it even on the A side, but I want it to be a conscious decision, not I have to color block because that's the only size I have. And B, it's much easier to do color blocking in my mind. It's probably not true, but that's kind of the way I look at it. So I go and trim out all the papers for the A sides and look for that cohesion from left to right in the book when the page is open before you start moving any of the flaps. And then I use what's left over to plan the B sides. Some people just use as they go, and then, you know, there's less planning as you go because there's less choices because you've already used up the pattern. So that's another way to do it. But I like a lot of symmetry in my books. So I want, when I have a spread like this, I for example, I wouldn't want page 6 to be this bright blue, or that goes okay, but like pink. See how there's no flow right there. So I'm planning, when I plan those A sides, I'm planning when the book is open, both sides. So I'm cutting all the papers out for the A on both sides, and then I'll worry about the B sides after I've done that for the A on all my pages. So in the case of page 1, I want to make sure when the book is first open that whatever that inside liner is goes nicely with page 1. So I design those as a unit, not as individual pages. So it's just something to think about in your process if you're new to it, how you go through it. Everybody does it a little bit differently, but that's kind of how I think about it. So once I've got my flap designs done, what I typically do is I go coordinate my papers just in piles, and I plan for each set of pages to have a minimum of 3 patterns. So I'll collect these 3 patterns and group them, and then I'll look at the next 2 pages and I'll collect 3 patterns and group those, and that's kind of the beginning of my process. And as you can see, I've got 3 strong patterns and this one. So I'll often pull in the 4th pattern, but that's after I've already decided what the 3 primary design papers are going to be. And then I'll add some accent like this. That was not part of the preliminary design. I knew I'd have this. I knew I'd have the dragons. So that's kind of how I do it. So it's something to think about. Like I said, everybody's different. And the more flaps you have, the more planning you have to do. Okay, now I need to put something down here. And I want to pick this pattern knowing what this looks like over here. So I can do that. I can add another piece of this, and then keep in mind that a good part of this is going to get covered, at least the black pieces get covered by this tag that's holding it in place. And again, that'll be a black tag. I just don't have one handy in the room that I'm in right now. So this kind of creates that sort of continuous look, which I kind of like. The other thing would be we could cover the tag in this and then do a contrast down here. And I don't think I like that. I think what I want to do is this. And then what's likely going to happen here is one of my solid red patterns. And it doesn't, I can't find a piece right at the moment, but it's probably going to be this, and that pulls this back in. Okay, so I still need to trim that out, but for now we'll get this trimmed and covered, and then I'm going to take a break, line up what I'm going to cover the tag in, and then get us prepped for the B side. Excuse me. And that's 2.5, which means it's 2, 1 7/8. And this measurement that you see here is before you score it. So it's 5 by 2.5, then you're going to score 3 of the 4 sides. Well, that worked out well. That's centered. That was not deliberate. It was fortunate. Okay. No good. Oh, I hate it when I do that. Well, that was okay. Luckily, it's on the busiest part of the pattern. But that was just careless. I'm trying to rush. I really want to get this out today. Okay, that's that. Okay, so as you can see, we have this gap here, but that's because that's the end of the flap. So that's actually going to be a flap that we need to cover, and I'm not sure what I'm doing there yet. That will be part of when I come back in a few minutes after I get everything trimmed out. I'm going to set this aside, and I am going to locate a piece of this paper, and if I can't, I'm going to wind up doing color blocking on the tag to at least pull this pattern in, like I did on a previous one where I found a piece that was big enough that it covered everything above the pocket, and I'll put something different below it if I have to. But my goal is to try to find a big enough piece to cover this. So hang on just a minute. Here, I've got a 12 by 12, so that's exciting. So I'm gonna go cut a piece out and then run it through my Graphic 45 tag die so that it fits perfectly on here, and I'll be back. Okay, I'm back, and I die cut this. I forgot to get a black tag, so I'm going to get a black tag and lay this on, although I don't mind that either. But I've already used black tags in the album, so I'm going to stay consistent. And then I wanted to point out that I'm using the Graphic 45 regular tag and gear dies. And if you are a Graphic 45 fan and you like the tags, man, I can't tell you how much I love this die. It's worth every penny. Because I use the tag so much more now, and it was so hard to cut around the grommet before they made these dies. So I really like it. I'd have to say I've used all the tag sizes, but I think probably the regular tag is my favorite. So if you have to make a decision and you can't get all of them, this is probably the one I use the most. And if you like to follow our tutorials, then I think that's a good one to start with. All right, so I gotta put you on pause just one more time to go get the tag. Okay, finally, I'm back, and we've got our tag. So let's get this inked and in. Okay, here we go. So if you guys, I don't know if you guys are fans of Ginger Rop, but she is a little sweetheart, and she's a great designer for Graphic 45. She's one of their ambassadors, and I saw this morning that she just released a new video, and it's for an explosion box, and it's featuring Fashion Forward, and it's really cute. I'm really happy with the album that I created, but this explosion box is a great idea too. So I wanted to give her a mention or a shout out because I really thought that was cute. So if you haven't decided what to do with your Fashion Forward, or haven't decided whether or not you need a Fashion Forward, take a look at that video. I think you might feel compelled to do a project with Fashion Forward now. It's really cute. And it takes advantage of the fact that it's a calendar collection. And explosion boxes sort of lend themselves to fat, thick spines. So you can get, many pages in, but it's cute. She's like, in my mind, the queen of mini minis, the 6x6s or smaller. Anyways, it's cute, and I think it's very giftable. So check it out, Ginger Rop, my sister's scrapper. All right, so I'm really happy with the way that looks. Okay, I'm going to do some embellishing with some charms and ribbon on all my tags. And if you buy your DCEs through us, you're going to get a little pack of charms that coordinate, really cute charms. One of them is a fan, but there's some other things, and I think it's really cute. So I'm going to make sure that I add those to my tags before I finish. I'm leaving the back blank right now because I want to make sure that all my larger pieces go to cover flaps, and I'll come back and cover the back side of my tags, provided I have enough material left, which I think I will, given that I've got 2 DCEs here. So I'm going to take a break. I'm going to go line up my B-sides for page 7, and when I come back, they should be, I'll have them dry fit and inked so we can get this wrapped up. Okay, everybody, we're on to page 7. So we're getting close to finishing the album up. So I, in the last video before I took a break to work on some of the other pieces, I had covered this, and I've got my pages trimmed out for inside. But let's get the waterfall pieces on really quick. So I've decided to alternate the pattern. I'm going to go back and forth between this red and this one, and so I'm trying to decide what do I want to cross from this pattern, and I think this is what I like. Yeah, and then we'll do the red across from the bird, and then this will be the last piece. So let's get those in real quick. And it looks like, yeah, it's trimmed, ready to go. Okay, and here's the other pattern. And it's trimmed and inked, ready to go. Goes so much faster when I'm prepared. Oops, I got a little heavy-handed there, didn't I? I want to be careful to clean those up because when you close the waterfall, you don't want it to grab onto the paper just below it. All right, that looks lovely. Give that a second to dry so I don't force it to get stuck. Okay, now let's focus on the inside. Okay, we're going to do some color blocking, and part of that is because the size of paper that was left sort of dictates that we need to do some color blocking. So right now I'm just making sure these two pieces are the same height, and it looks like they are. And it's going to go like this. We've got a big solid piece here, and then a strip, and then this piece. So that's the way it's going to look. All right. So we're going to start with a small piece, get it laid in first. So it looks like I need another 1/16 of an inch. Not a lot. Let's give that a shot. And it looks good. I'm going to ink it and lay it down. See if it fits better one way or the other. I always test both ways. Sometimes, I don't know why, it just visually looks more appealing one way than the other. Okay, we are getting close to the end, guys. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and put this down. And let's see if I can lay this in. This actually looks like it's trimmed right. So let's get it inked, take another look, and then we'll put glue on it. And before I get finished, I think I need magnets. Yes, we need magnets. So I hadn't put the magnets in yet because I wasn't sure if I was going to do color blocking in here. So I'm glad I thought of it. So we need to put some magnets here. We're going to put one here and one here. And I had done that on the previous page because I guess I knew I wasn't going to color block across the magnet. Okay, there we go. So that's all going to be held closed like that. Sorry about, there's some papers that we're going to install on the other side and they're floating around a little bit. I should move them so we don't have to look at them. All right, so we're done with that. So let's go ahead and, I think this is trimmed and ready. I'm glad I caught that because I was just getting ready to lay this down. That would have been tragic. All right, so it is right, it looks beautiful, but it is right on the hinge, so I'm concerned it won't close. I think I need to take a smidgen off. Let's see if everything closes. It does. Somehow I didn't get ink on the very edge of this. I hate it when that happens. It's very hard to go back and get the edge. There, I got it, but anyway, so it looks like that fits. So I'm gonna ink it and we'll lay it down. Okay, so then, that's very tight. And if it's too tight, what happens when you close your book is it wants to peel the page up. I think I need to reposition my magnet. Didn't feel. Sometimes when you add all this bulk, the page shifts slightly, which means you need to move your magnet. And there's a little bit of a bow because there's a lot of paper involved here. So you may have noticed I was pulling at an angle. If you pull at an angle, you usually get a better result and a cleaner removal. You try to pull straight up and down, it will tear your paper. The tape will tear your paper. And that's pretty true with even removing it. If you've got something glued down, you want to lift it up, don't pull it straight up, pull it at an angle, and it seems to want to release. I don't know why. I'm sure there's some science behind that. I don't know what it is. Okay, I'm going to reposition this magnet. Okay. It still doesn't feel very strong. I think it's because I've got so much going on here in the hinge. I should have trimmed out a little bit more. This page would have wanted to lay a little flatter. But I'm trying to decide, do I want to go up a magnet and just try to use a bigger, stronger magnet? I think I will. So for your purposes, stay out of the hinge, stay out of the score line, and you won't have to worry. You won't have to work so hard to get your page to lay flat. But I've already got, it glued down on this side, so I can't really. There's not a whole lot I can do, and I'm not going to go lift my paper up. So I'm using a combination of a small and large magnet. Yeah, and I'm happier with that. Okay. All right, so here's our last piece. And go on like this, and it looks like it might need to be trimmed a little. Oh, I'm gonna get my contrast out. A little bit, not much. There we go. That's it. So in this album, I have used small and large magnets, which I don't usually intermingle them. But I gotta tell you, on page 1 and page 8, there's a lot going on that top flap, and there's a lot of weight. So I really recommend using a large magnet for page 1 and page 8. It's not necessary throughout the album, but if you want to be consistent, you know, that's fine too. But definitely, I think you need that strength for those 2 pages. That top flap is heavy. It's heavy and it's thick. It got a lot of layers. So okay, so here is page 7. It's gonna look like this. So we've got our waterfall. And then we've got this right and left flaps. It's gorgeous. I love it. I'm really happy with this layout. Simple, but beautiful. All right. And then I will add some more embellishments to this tag. And that is the end of page 7. Okay. I'll be back with page 8.